Hi, I'm Jessica Rost, and my installation is the Arizical. The installation was inspired by networks of myceli, synapses, networks which work in a different way from the way that we are used to thinking in a linear way. So, fungi, for example, and tree roots are based on a different system where they can go in every direction at once until they decide where they're heading. And I was really interested in that. And the worlds underground, which are alive and which are happening, breaking down matter over the winter periods. So spring is like a resurrection of that new life, which is always hidden underneath. So the piece was made out of wood that was cut from the park where it was installed. So I spent some time talking to the grounds people there, and they saved several sort of piles of wood, which I went back and forth to get. So it's a mix of holly and laurel and all sorts of cuttings. And the wood is important that it's from the place where the installation has been. It helps me to feel that it's got a connection to that space, or it's sited somehow in that space. And then the metal which connects the wood is all made sort of bespoke to each piece. And it's the way I like to use metal is in a very kind of organic way. For many years, I've been working in metal, making large-scale structures, mechanical puppets, cycle-powered stuff for festivals and outdoor events and shows that I've created. But also alongside of that, I have a sculptural practice. And 2 or 3 years ago, I decided that I needed to change my practice because I felt like I wanted to make it much more conscious, much more environmentally friendly, much more sustainable. So I embarked on an MA, and then during that time, lockdown happened, and I then ended up on a piece of waste ground, living off grid. And during that time, I experimented with this thing which I called perma art. So I kind of used the principles and the philosophy of permaculture and applied it to a creative practice, and created work inside a closed loop, and started experimenting with things that didn't impact. So lots of sound stuff and using the materials that were there, but more than that, observing systems and observing what the abundance and the scarcity and the different ways that things worked, and then acting within those systems rather than on top of those systems, which a lot of art practice does. And then I started to develop this whole way of working, which I call perma art, where I find a lot of a material and then try and use it. So in permaculture, the problem becomes the solution. And so, for example, at the moment, I've just harvested over 1,000 piano keys from some pianos that were being taken away. And I'm going to be making another immersive sound installation piece using the piano keys and some other materials that I've been collecting. I mean, it is impossible to make art without being destructive, and I'm really interested in that dichotomy and how I can be more conscious in the decisions that I make when I cut and mine and carve and buy in materials. I'm trying to make spaces which aren't necessarily giving out a message or telling people what to do, but they're more places where people can just be, just kind of take stock of where they're at, and almost kind of meditative, contemplative spaces, which is why the sound piece in the Arizical. So yeah, the sound that I put in pieces is really important as well. I think all of the pieces in the trail are really complementary and really different, which is fun. It's great. I think it's a good time. It's the time when people are naturally waking up after the winter, but also re-emerging after a time when they haven't really been out mixing, and it's just a joyous thing to present some artwork for people to get excited about again. Yeah, it's great. Hopefully they will enjoy wandering around the space. There's a lot to look at. There's a lot to look at in the Arizical. It's one of those spaces where you could just run through it and trying to get through to, because it is a maze in a sense that there's one way in and one way out, but and it only takes a second to walk through, but there's quite a lot of intriguing shapes and things to look at and sounds to hear if you download the sounds as well. So I'm hoping that it will give people the opportunity to take 5 minutes out of their busy lives and just sort of downtime, I guess.